Today I'll be talking about original sin and fission theories. This paper will assume the thesis of original sin. It will assume that humans born today are all born guilty of a sin committed by someone born at least thousands of years ago. So more original guilt than original sin, the heavy duty version. Given an extreme literalist view of the Genesis story, that someone is Adam or Eve and they sinned by eating the forbidden fruit. A moderate literalist reading instead has it that our early ancestors committed an unspecified sin or set of sins, removing themselves from a paradise-like environment. For the purpose of exposition alone, I'm going to assume that we all suffer because Adam ate the apple, although the theory I explain can easily be tweaked to work for more moderate readings. I'm also going to assume responsibility, that an agent Tau is guilty concerning Tau Star's firing, only if, at some earlier time, Tau could have prevented Tau Star from firing. Now, responsibility is intuitively true. If my father committed a crime before I was born, I cannot be guilty of it, for I couldn't have prevented him. Regarding Adam's sin, it looks like I can't be guilty of Adam's sin because Adam committed that sin thousands of years before I was born, and I could not have stopped him. So responsibility seems to conflict with original sin, at least as I lay it out in this talk. Now, this paper assumes that denying responsibility is too revisionary, which leaves only one option, that we could have prevented Adam from sinning. And this paper focuses on one theory which is already in the literature, which takes this route, materialist fission theory. Now, given fission theory, we are the same person as Adam, and thus could have stopped Adam eating the apple because we are Adam. Fission theorists argue that this is the case because when Adam ate the apple, he fissioned, not just once, but billions of times. And the resulting fission counterparts of Adam are each the same person as Adam. Every human who exists today turns out to be one of those fission counterparts. Thus, everyone alive has previously been in the Garden of Eden, where they ate the forbidden fruit, because we were all once Adam. Contemporary discussions of fission theory, they assume materialism. When Adam sinned, it's Adam's entire body, not just his soul, which fissioned. And I'll call this specific version of fission theory materialist fission theory, MFT for short. And there's two types of MFT, gapless and regression. Gapless MFT says that there's no gap in Adam's personal time between the eating of the apple and my/his appearance in my mother's womb. At one instant of personal time, Adam is sinking his teeth into an apple. He's thinking how succulent it is. At the next instant of Adam's personal time, he is shrunk, he's changed DNA, he's lost all of his mental states, he's now the size of a zygote. Now, one problem in the literature by Ray and Hudson is that this theory doesn't work because nothing can survive that sort of change. The change Adam is undergoing is just too radical to survive. One mooted solution to this problem is cashed out in terms of pejoratism. Take the temporal parts which would need to be interrelated in order for me to be the same person as Adam. Now, since relations are plentiful, there's some relation, call it R, which relates those parts. So imagine that God simply decrees that R is the relation which grounds personal identity. Now, in doing so, that decree makes it the case that Adam can survive the radical change and end up being the same person as me. This decree response makes Adam's fissioning a purely metaphysical miracle. That is, we hold fixed the physical facts that we ordinarily believe in, that there's such and such a distribution of temporal parts throughout space and time. Were you a naturalist, an atheist faced by such a distribution, one who would identify the relation grounding personal identity with a causal relation or a relation of psychological interconnectedness, you would say that no fission takes place given that distribution. Indeed, the naturalist, the atheist, would believe that the fission described by gapless MFT was metaphysically impossible. It was no more plausible than God turning up and saying that a collection of temporal parts of some human and a sofa from the 1800s, that collection of temporal parts was a person. Right? That seems to be metaphysically impossible. I can't have some temporal parts of a sofa from the 1800s as part of me. So for gapless MFT to work, God has to be able to suspend the metaphysical rules governing personhood. And I'm disinclined to believe that God could conduct such metaphysical miracles, or indeed any metaphysical miracle. Consider the paradox of the stone and whether God can create an object too heavy for him to lift. The two best solutions to that paradox are, one, that God cannot do the metaphysically impossible, or alternatively, two, God can do it, but won't. He'll choose never to do it. Now, if decreeing R is to be a relation-grounding personhood turns out to be metaphysically impossible, then we know God hasn't made such a decree given either of those answers to the paradox of the stone, and so we know that gapless MFT has to be false because it involves such a metaphysical miracle. But MFT, a gapless MFT isn't the only variety of materialist fission theory. Instead of introducing metaphysical miracles to rescue gapless MFT, we should simply give up on it. That doesn't mean MFT is false, though. Whilst metaphysical miracles are philosophically problematic, merely physical miracles are not. Christians already believe such physical miracles occur, e.g., God temporarily suspending the laws of physics to allow Jesus to walk on water or to be resurrected. Indeed, Van Inwagen assumes that God is routinely conducting such physical miracles. Van Inwagen begins by assuming, not unreasonably, that something which is destroyed completely cannot be reassembled, it cannot be brought back into existence. Since human corpses rot away or are cremated, this is a problem for God when it comes to resurrecting our bodies at the day of judgment. Van Inwagen's solution is that God teleports our bodies away after we die, but before the corpse has ceased to be. God then instantaneously replaces the corpse with a simulacrum, which we then come to erroneously believe was once that person. Such miraculous teleportation would be a physical miracle, one which would be routinely going on around us. To save MFT, we should similarly treat Adam's fissioning like this sort of physical miracle, rather than trying to make it a metaphysical miracle. Indeed, what benefit is there to making it purely metaphysical? Are metaphysical miracles meant to be more acceptable to a modern worldview than God manipulating gross physical matter? Because if that's the idea, I fail to see the appeal. So on this view, when Adam fissions, he fissions in a physical process, just like an amoeba. But God whisks away those fission counterparts, just as he might whisk away our corpses when we die. And God places those fission counterparts into a form of suspended animation. When needed, a fission counterpart is unsuspended. Then they are miraculously regressed, biologically de-aging until they're the size of, say, a zygote. Then they undergo a gradual change of DNA. Finally, God swaps the zygote in someone's womb for the regressed fission counterpart of Adam. And in this manner, we are all Adam. Call this regression MFT. No radical change is required anymore. Adam's regression can take place over an extended period of personal time with years elapsing from Adam's point of view as he regresses back into being a zygote. Let's consider some objections to this theory, this solution to MFT's problems. The first objection is that during this process, Adam loses all of his memories, and given the psychological continuity theory of personal identity, Adam cannot survive regression. My answer is, unsurprisingly, that this theory requires that some other theory of personal identity is true, a bodily continuity theory or an anti-criterialism that doesn't rule out Adam's survival. Nor do I see any independent reasons to think that Adam couldn't survive such a regression. If a zygote can be a person, why can a person not be regressed back into being a zygote and survive? And if, like me, you doubt that any zygote is a person, and that instead only fetuses or maybe even some antenatal human stage is a person, then simply change the details of this theory to be that Adam regressed to that stage, and then the replacement took effect. In short, if you believe a person can once have been an F, why doubt that they cannot be regressed back into being an F? Second objection. We all have different DNA, so Adam will have to have his DNA changed, and no human can survive such changes to the DNA. My answer: we cannot survive any old change to our DNA. For instance, I will not survive having all my DNA changing to be that of a mayfly. But I see no reason why I cannot change my genetic characteristics from being one way that a human being could be to being a different way that a human being can be. For the Christian, this should be quite plausible, given that we might well expect our resurrected bodies to have no DNA whatsoever. And again, bear in mind that this change in DNA can be as gradual as required. Objection 3. Where are all these Adam fission counterparts kept prior to being implanted in wombs? And the answer is, well, wherever our corpses are whisked away to after we die, given Van Inwagen's theory. A planet in the Andromeda Galaxy, perhaps. Maybe some region of a hyperspatial dimension, possibly the core of Mars. Who knows? That's not for us to know. Objection 4. This theory is crazy and unbelievable. Here I take the same tack as Van Inwagen does for his own theory of resurrection. My argument is not necessarily that this is the way that God would arrange the world in order to birth out original sin, only that it is a metaphysically possible way. Now, if it turns out that it's the only metaphysically possible way, then those believing both original sin and responsibility must accept it. But I make no claim to it being the sole solution. Perhaps there are other solutions. Either way, the presentation of regression MFT amounts to a defense of original sin in the face of responsibility. Objection 5. Why would God create such a world? This theory makes God's actions seem ridiculous. My answer is that it's not obviously wrong for God to sustain Adam's life by causing him to fission. There's no reason for God not to have made the world this way. Furthermore, any theory which tries to have this original guilt, original sin, must face this challenge, since it's hard to see how any theory accepting responsibility will provide an explanation as to why God made one particular sin committed by Adam all of our faults. Objection 6. By removing zygotes, God is killing unborn children, which God would never do. My answer. Let T be the first instant at which a person comes into existence. At that time, they're composed of some atoms. At all instants in the open interval leading up to T, those atoms compose a similar, non-personal thing. We can call it an apersonal composite. God regresses Adam to the stage at which, were he regressed any further, he would cease to exist in virtue of becoming an apersonal composite. Thus, what God destroys in the womb and replaces with Adam is not an unborn child, but an apersonal composite. No unborn children were harmed in the making of the world. Admittedly, God is going to have to intercede in a process which would have led to the creation of an unborn child. For certain Christians, that is an act which mortals aren't allowed to engage in. For instance, Christians against contraception or masturbation might believe this. So God would be willing to do something he prohibits humans from doing. But this isn't a problem either. Even if you want to keep safe thinking that contraception use is immoral or what have you, it seems reasonable to think that God, who's got unlimited capacities rather than the limited capacities of mere mortals, God is not prohibited from engaging in such conduct. And that's it. That's my talk. That's how to take those fission theories of original sin, of original guilt, and avoid those objections level to them by tweaking the theory to include more physical miracles. And if you're willing to believe in the fission theories in the first place, if you're predisposed to, I don't see why this physical miracle response doesn't solve the problems you were having with that theory. That's it. Thank you.